Hello all, it's been a while, but I'm back with another top 10 list for you. This time we'll be looking into some hidden gems of the often derided FMV adventure. But I'm not going to list just any FMV adventure, but ones featuring a heavy dose of live action. Now the absolute best, like Gabriel Knight 2, Wing Commander 3, or The Seventh Guest, are already available to buy on places like GOG or Steam, so you won't be seeing them here. Instead, we'll be diving deep into some lost obscurities that are still well worth your time. So, without further ado, let's rank the top 10 forgotten FMV adventures.
Number 10.
Quantum Gate. The FMV genre is often derided for having little interaction, essentially making them little more than movies, and Quantum Gate makes no illusions that this is the case. You don't play the game, you go to the movie. Each chapter is also available from the off in the contents menu, and there's no real puzzles to solve either. Instead, you wander around 3 levels of an off-world military base, uncovering plot points and scenes.
So what's the problem?
I don't think that would be a good idea.
Come on, I just asked you over for a drink. What's the problem?
Well, I'm an officer for one thing.
Oh God, you don't really think...
Do you need something, soldier?
Privates Griffin and Michaels report immediately to the kitchen for KP duty. Griffin and Michaels to the kitchen immediately.
If you meander for too long, the game will just take control and force you onto the next major plot point anyway. The only thing that even resembles a game is the first-person action sequences, that play a lot like Battlezone.
Fire.
So why is this number 10 when it's not really much of a game at all? Well, it's the perfectly campy sci-fi story written by Greg Roach, with graphics that looked simply stunning in 1993. Roach and the company he founded, Hyperbole Studios, had a focus on interactive stories, including the earlier Madness of Roland, and another adventure that will feature later on this list.
Number 9.
Santa Fe Mysteries, The Elk Moon Murder and Sacred Ground. I'm cheating a little by including both Santa Fe games in the number 9 spot, but they share so much that the sequel may as well be an add-on if we're being honest. Developed by Activision in the mid-90s and co-created by the writer and producer of Northern Exposure, there's more of a game in these mysteries than the interactive movie that was Quantum Gate. You have a strict 5-day deadline to solve some strange cases: the murder of a Native American named Anna Elk Moon in the first game, and the disappearance of Amy Tasker in the second. You do this by interviewing suspects, taking photos of evidence, and sending them to a forensics lab for processing. You are accompanied by your Native American partner, John Nightsky, who I kept mishearing as Nice Guy, who provides some context into the differing cultures of the area. The game does do a good job in making you feel like you're actually solving the case, even if some of the acting feels like a rushed episode of Murder, She Wrote. But then, even that is way above par for most others of the time.
You know why someone might want to harm her?
You want to know the truth? She was a raging bitch, treated people like dirt.
Number 8.
The Cassandra Galleries. Being a cult classic that's still sold, you won't find The Seventh Guest on this list. What you will find is this puzzle-heavy adventure with an obvious debt to that spooky gem. Released in 1997, it was one of the few actual games published by Coral Corporation, who are most well known for application software such as CorelDRAW or WordPerfect. In fact, after 2 years of trying to make a dent into the gaming landscape, the company gave up after this game was released, selling the assets to Hoffman and Associates. That doesn't make Cassandra Galleries a bad game. It's actually very good when you're playing it. When it comes to watching it, however, it is a little dry.
As William grew more and more morose, he started to take an interest in puzzles. He collected books on word games, logic games, you know the sort of thing.
The plot is that a renowned media tycoon named William Cassandra has disappeared with his daughter Maya, and a couple of monologuing actors occasionally walk on screen to tell you this. This is little more than an excuse to create magical worlds linked to the various themes of a museum. You visit them by placing various ornaments on their correct pedestal, and you'll be taken to a number of logic puzzles, kinda linked to their theme. Most of them are nicely designed and presented, and it sure gives the Seventh Guest a run for its money. It's well worth your time.
Number 7.
The XFiles, the game. Hyperbole Studios are back with one hell of a license, The XFiles, one of my favourite shows as a teenager. The game itself may disappoint if you're expecting to play as either Mulder or Scully. They were filming Season 5 in a big budget movie at the same time, so you've got to give them a bit of a break. But as a whole, the game is a fairly decent adventure. It does suffer from bigging up mundane actions just to make a puzzle out of it, but there are worse offenders of this. Instead of Mulder or Scully, you play as Craig Wilmore, an FBI agent tasked with finding the actual heroes who have gone missing during a case.
Where were they last seen?
In my office in D.C., right before they left.
Cue convoluted alien conspiracies and a welcome scene with the lone gunman, and you have a game that's worthy of its license, no matter what anyone says.
Are they romantically involved?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Have they been romantically involved in the past?
As I say, I don't know. I don't believe so.
Number 6.
The Black Dahlia. It may seem a little crass to link the infamous murder of Elizabeth Short with Nazi conspiracies and occult rituals, but if you get the interactive B-movie vibes of Black Dahlia, then I guess I'm all for it. In actuality, the tragic death of the aspiring actress only has a passing effect on the plot, which takes place 6 years before it even happened. The Black Dahlia of the title is in reference to a mystical gemstone that all kinds of nefarious folk are looking for. Released in 1998, Black Dahlia came at the tail end of the FMV craze, making it one of the last of its kind. It also spanned a whopping 9 CDs, giving it the dubious accolade of being the largest game of the type. As a result, a lot of well-acted video footage is crammed in there, including a short scene starring the late Dennis Hopper, but it's in the puzzles where you'll form your final opinion. Right from the off, it gives you a relatively complex code-breaking puzzle that's hidden within the environment of the game world. It's not for everyone, but I love this kind of stuff. In the second half though, where the plot gets really weird, the puzzles take the opposite route. Here we're mostly given the standard sliding puzzles and jigsaws, which are at odds with how the game began. But despite all this, it's still one of the better FMV adventures out there.
Nazi troops dead in their tracks. More bad news for the Axis.
Excuse me. I'm looking for a man named George Hansen. He used to work at the Finster Munitions Factory. Do you know where I might be able to find him?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I haven't made his acquaintance.
Number 5.
Rama. If the code-breaking puzzles of Black Dahlia seem too difficult for you, they've got nothing on what can be found in Rama. You'll need a hefty wad of graph paper and your scientific calculator at the ready if you want to get anywhere beyond the opening moments. And believe me, you'll want to see them. Based on the classic Arthur C. Clarke series of books, Dynamic's 1996 adventure was the first to adapt it in any visual medium. There was a text adventure in the 80s and a radio play before that, but I don't really count those.
Well. So we have a true parvenu joining us in the middle of our mission. Well, that's all right with me. But I must say, I'm actually impressed the ISA sent someone so quickly. Heaven knows we can certainly use your help. And
discretion is the better part of valor.
You play as a scientist who joins a team exploring a giant tubular spacecraft that has entered the solar system. It is desolate and unmanned, save only for a selection of worker droids and your crew. But despite them, your time on Rama is a strangely isolating one, evoking the same kind of feeling that Myst did a few years earlier. As you explore the landscape, solving some of the most cleverly demanding puzzles the genre has to offer, you slowly begin to uncover the history of the vessel and the lost civilization that once built it. The difficulty is not for everyone, but for those who are up for a challenge, Rama is incredibly rewarding.
I detect an empty space inside the hub of this structure and an opening facing us.
Number 4.
Amber, Journeys Beyond. Who doesn't love a good haunted house story? If you're not one of them, then look away now, for Amber Journeys Beyond is all about the paranormal investigations of a mysterious building. You play as a paranormal researcher on his way to a remote house rife with activity. One of your colleagues has been stationed there and has since gone dark, and it appears she has been using some experimental tech without proper caution and has been trapped in the spirit world as a result. To free her, you'll first have to free the 3 ghosts haunting the place. What makes Amber so special is not the excellent observational puzzles, or the creative number of spirit worlds you can visit, but the artistry in how the story is told. At times it reminded me of something like Gone Home, where plot points are discovered in the game world by reading notes or interpreting visual clues. The spirit worlds that embody the mindset of each ghost are more gamey in their puzzle design, but even here their stories are effectively told.
Ooh, awful. Who would do such a thing?
Overall, Amber may be a short game, but if you're into spooky adventures, it's one hell of a journey.
Now, how did I do that?
Number 3.
Byzantium, The Betrayal. Hero of Avalon and I had a blast playing through the opening moments of this conspiracy thriller way back in February. If that tiny snippet didn't urge you to go play it, then maybe this little recommendation would. You play as an American journalist looking for a scoop in the Turkish capital. Gradually you uncover a clandestine antique smuggling ring that quickly turns deadly. The plot is stuffed with intrigue and spectacular real-world locations to explore, giving you a true essence of what Istanbul is like.
Sorry, but you can't wear your shoes inside the mosque.
Coming from the Discovery Channel, you also get some history of the Byzantine Empire. There's an educational bent to it, but it's to its credit that it doesn't feel preachy or tacked on. In fact, I was majorly impressed by what Byzantine had to offer, both in its story and its puzzle design. I wouldn't say it tops Gabriel Knight 2 as a globe-spanning FMV adventure, but it surprisingly comes close.
You made it. Good, good. It's me, Emre. Just listen, the line's not safe. I've got the proof, but I can't get back to it. They're following me. I need you to help me reach Cleo.
Number 2.
Obsidian. Many games on this list cite Myst as a major influence, but few in this countdown make direct comparisons to it. The disarmingly tongue-in-cheek Obsidian by Rocket Science makes a few loving jokes at that game's expense.
Bring me the blue pages.
And yet that's not all this game has to offer. A couple of scientists uncover a growing black structure in the wilderness and get sucked into its mind-bending expanse. Inside, dreams are reality, with fears, anxieties, and desires metaphorically represented in each of the 4 realms you eventually visit. The first of which is the Bureau realm, a drab series of convoluted offices that revel in the twisted logic of its rules and red tape.
Oh, hi. You're here to get the bridge repaired, right? I've heard great things about you. Maybe you could put in a good word for me with the bureau chief. I'm long overdue for a raise.
From the graphics to the puzzles to the incredibly amusing script, every cent of the whopping $2 million budget can be seen through your monitor. It is one of the best mist clones you'll ever see and well worth the number 2 spot.
Hi there. Haven't seen you before at Bureau Hygiene. You're the one looking for Max, right? Oh, a spot. How embarrassing. Let me just... almost got it. No, not quite. Oh, I'm sorry. Could you come back a little later?
Before we get to our number 1 spot, here are some honourable mentions.
Now, many days have passed since 12 tomes vanished. I no longer possess the power of magic.
You know these rubies are identical to the ones I sent you with a formula.
Really, Plum, you are slow on the uptake.
Luke, what'd you do? What'd you touch? What'd you push? You must have done something to get us back here. 2 seconds alone and it gets us all in a ton of trouble.
Hey, don't blame me. All I know is I walked into my room, those Horrorland tickets were glowing, I touched them, and poof, here we are.
Yeah.
Morpheus. Morpheus by Soap Bubble Productions takes place on a steampunk luxury liner, or should I say decopunk luxury liner. Anyway, the ship is named Herculania, and your father was a passenger when it went missing many, many years ago. So, being like any good son, you spent the last 40 years searching the Arctic Ocean trying to find this ship, and eventually you did. And what remains is an eerie ghost ship stranded in thick ice. Funnily enough, almost everything is in perfect working order. Elevators run as do cine projectors. Even the greenhouse has managed to keep the rare plants alive. The same cannot be said for the people. There are ghost sightings everywhere, and each one slowly unravels the mystery of what actually happened. The puzzle design is some of the most balanced on this list. Not a single one feels out of place within the game world, nor are any of them there solely for the express purpose to pad out the game's runtime.
It's fallen to the deck.
You'll often have to take logical leaps that draw from real-world experiences, and at times it will even ask you to think about the personality of the ghosts you encounter. An example of this being the 3-digit codes needed to enter each of their personal chambers, each one tying into their own backstory. This makes Morpheus, in my mind, a masterpiece of interactive storytelling. Every puzzle, poster, and point of interaction are all in service of this. It's presented in a fascinating non-linear fashion that will keep you guessing right up until the end. Besides the odd control niggles and a less than great opening, I find it hard to criticise anything else about the game. I would rank it amongst the best Myst clones of the 90s, and even one of the best adventure games full stop. A hidden gem of a masterpiece if ever there was one. So, what's your take? Have I missed any of your favourites? Let me know in the comments below, and while you're there, give us a like, a share, subscribe, perhaps show some support on Patreon if you're able to. There's that bell thing too that keeps you notified when I post new videos. If you want to know more, head on over to the Collection Chamber website, where you can find out how to play all of the featured games on Windows 10. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time on the Collection Chamber.